Hi, this is Sean Biggerstaff and I'm on FrConventions. Yeah, I remember the audition really well because I initially auditioned to play a different character. I was reading for Percy, but the moment I walked into the room, Janet Harshenson said, "Oh no, you're much more of an Oliver Wood." And my first day filming, it was at Alnwick Castle in Northern England, and that's where we filmed the scene, my sort of main scene in the first film, where I'm teaching Harry the rules of the game. And I'm very glad of that because that was a much smaller scale. That was just like 2 actors, 2 cameras. Well, there might be more cameras, but it was a kind of normal days filming that you would get on kind of any sort of movie, and it was after that I went to the studio and saw the massive sets and the thousands of extras and the incredible effects and all this stuff, and I was kind of blissfully naive of what I'd actually got myself into when I did that first day, which meant I was able to just relax and just do my job the way I always had done. I think if I'd already grasped how big it was, I would probably have been terrified into, trying too hard, or I don't think I would have been able to perform properly. So I'm glad that my first day was something quite small. Well, Emma wasn't in the first 2 Potter films. She came in later, so I haven't seen Emma Thompson in the flesh since I think the year 2000 actually. But certainly having Alan there was great, and he was quite instrumental in me getting the part in the first place, because he put me in touch with his agent, who was looking after me at the time, and it was actually Harry Potter was actually the first audition that I had with that agent in London. And I know that he called David Heyman to put in a good word for me. I still don't know to this day how decisive that was, like to what extent I owe it all to Alan. I certainly owe a lot to Alan. But yeah, it was good having him there, and it was also good in the sense that because it worked with him and Emma, I already had experience of being at work with these kind of, living legends, so I wasn't going to be fazed by the fact, how famous the other actors on the set were. So that was never an issue for me because I was kind of used to it. I'd already worked with really, really big actors a few times as a young kid. So I was very fortunate, and I had an upbringing where I sort of slowly built up to being in something that huge. I wasn't just dropped into that world out of nowhere. So again, the thing that was kind of freaky about Potter wasn't how famous the people were. It was just how big the thing was, and the fact that the whole world was talking about it, and the fan mail was already arriving before the film was even out and stuff. So it was just the sheer scale of the phenomenon, rather than being intimidated by the famous people, for me. Well, in terms of like how many great actors were in it, I enjoyed that the same way that everyone else did, by watching the films. Of course, a film like that takes a year to make. A lot of the actors I didn't even meet on set, because most of my scenes were with Dan or with just kind of a few other actors. I think the only one of the kind of big stars that I actually had dialogue with was Maggie Smith, which was great. Some people find her quite scary, quite intimidating. I always found her very sweet. So yeah, it was a great experience. But in terms of kind of like breathing the air around these incredible people, and learning from them. I just wasn't actually there to see them do very much of it. You know, I kind of learned from them by watching them on the screen, the same way everyone else does. I don't have an older brother relationship, but Dan and I always got on really, really well. And he seemed, I can't remember why, but Dan already seemed to have some kind of sense of who I was. I don't know if he'd seen The Winter Guest or something. But yeah, there was a kind of like weird thing where he was kind of looking up to me in a way, and I wasn't really sure. I wasn't really sure why. Just another, and he'd worked as well. You know, he didn't come straight out of nowhere. He'd done a couple of quite big TV jobs, and a few of the kids had. I mean, Tom Felton had done a couple of movies, I believe, before Potter. So there was, even amongst the really young kids, there was a fair bit of experience. But I always really loved Dan, and I always really thought that he had it in him to go on and become a fantastic actor, which I think he has done. So that's been great to watch. He's nothing like we cannot be more different. He's sort of like the jock, kind of sports prefect, and I hated school, had no interest in team sports. The only sports I've ever been interested in have been individual things, like, but no, it was sort of, I think probably maybe because of how the audition happened, where I didn't think I was going to audition to play Wood. I was just kind of given the scenes last minute. I hadn't really prepared anything. I had prepared to play Percy, so I had, quite a lot of ideas about how to do it. And then, Wood, I just kind of had to read it. So in actual fact, it was very instinctive. There wasn't a lot of, kind of intellectual preparation went into it, and it was very, very straightforward. I mean, it was, the dialogue was good. It was, it's interesting enough things to say that just say it and it works. I'm just kind of explaining how this thing works, and that seemed to really appeal to people. Like he's quite different. I mean, you watch that first film, and there's so many actors that are coming in and really doing a kind of huge performance, doing this sort of big turn and taking over the screen for 5 minutes, and that's great. But I think a lot of people seem to have appreciated the little change of pace, and I just did it kind of as straightforwardly and naturally as I would have done anything else if it hadn't been about wizards. So not a lot of preparation, I must say, which I'm glad of, because it seemed to work. Really glad that I got to say goodbye. Like, obviously it was great in the early films, and then it was a little bit sad the fact that it kept going on and like not being part of it anymore. But it really it was a nice bit of closure, as they say these days, to sort of be there and be around at the end, even though I'm not really in the film the way that it ended up. It was great to just come back and see everyone. It was kind of surreal in that I'd been away for nearly 8 years and went back to the same studio where the same people were still making essentially the same film, but some of them were 3 feet taller and had beards. But no, that was just entirely positive. It was just a jolly. I just got to go back and hang out and be there for the final hurrah, which was a treat. Yeah, I still don't really know what it is that they've done. I talked to Robbie Coltrane the other day, because he lives just outside Glasgow, and I went to visit him, and he was involved in it, but we didn't talk that much about it. And that, so I mean, yeah, I'll check it out, but I'm actually still not really sure what exactly it is. But of course, Leavesden isn't there anymore, because it's entirely rebuilt. The studio that we filmed in, which was just a series of old aircraft hangars that weren't soundproof. They waited until after we'd finished making Harry Potter there, and then built a proper, like, professional world-class studio there. So yeah, you can go back to the same spot, but it's not the same place. I've not been in the new studio. I've been to the tour, which is great, fantastic thing that they've built. they really, there and in Florida, they really go to town, and kind of the kind of production standards are every bit as high for those kind of things as they are when you're making the film. So it was really cool to wander in, and it's not a kind of cheap knockoff kind of just making money. I mean, it makes a lot of money obviously, I think, but the attention to detail and the quality of what the art department have done is every bit as great as it was in the movies, which is great to see. It was like this ridiculous privilege getting to kind of, you know, be flown all over the world to do things like this. And actually I didn't do them for about 15 years, and the first one that I did do was in Paris. Actually, was at the Hilton, I think, another airport hotel just here. A very similar setup to this, and that was only 4 years ago, I think. But yeah, just when someone said, like, offered to fly me to Paris for a long weekend and put me up in a nice hotel and meet some people, see some old friends, you know. I've been doing more of it since then, and mostly in France actually, as it happens, which is great because I love France. Selfishly, I love the travel. I love the fact that, because I'm a huge foodie, and particularly I love French food, so the fact that I've been to almost every region in France, and I always like stay an extra day and see the city or see the town and go to some nice restaurants and meet the people, and it's to be able to get flown all over the place, and when you arrive there, there's lots of people that are really excited that you're there, and you just get to kind of like have a sort of weird holiday. Yeah, I feel obnoxiously lucky.